All right, hey everyone, welcome back to the new episode of the Dreamers Podcast. Today I have visual effects artist and director Alex Constante. If you want to kind of introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit more about you.
For sure. Hey, I'm Alex Constante. I'm a digital artist based out of Louisville, Kentucky. My work ranges from music videos to live EDM visuals to Game Boy games.
Awesome, awesome, and we'll dive into more of those topics, especially the Game Boy game, here later. But I guess if you want to kind of start talking about your artistic journey, like even as a kid, and how you kind of got to the place you are now.
For sure. Yes. So I've always kind of been into art. I would say like the thing that like first got me into art is probably like old Cartoon Network shows. Like first of all, Dexter's Lab. When I saw that
Mm-hmm.
show, I was obsessed with the idea of like being an inventor. So I feel like that was like the first spark. And then shows like Ed, and Eddie and
Cool.
Codename Kids Next Door, because like in
Mm-hmm.
both those, like I remember there's this one episode of Ed, and Eddie where like they want to go see this R-rated movie, but they can't because they're too young. So
Mm-hmm.
they act out the movie in a junkyard, and they're wearing this armor
Mm-hmm.
made out of like pots and pans and like random garbage. And then in like Kids
Mm-hmm.
Next Door, it's like they have all these gadgets they made from household items. They have like
Uh-huh.
a satellite made out of like a trash can and a colander. So just like the idea
Mm-hmm.
of like taking like random trash and like forming it together to create something. That's probably what kind of got like my imagination turning. Like growing up, I was obsessed with like Bionicle, and I loved the idea that it was like physical toys that also have a movie, uh, games, comic books, and books. And then so yeah, I just kind of was just always kind of building stuff. I would say in elementary school, I started making like little paper toys. So I kind of got into like paper crafts.
Mm-hmm.
So I would design little characters in like Microsoft Word, then print them out, cut them, and fold them. So I'd make like my own paper
Mm-hmm.
airplanes with like custom graphics. In middle school, I got really into like pop up cards. So I used to design these little cards that would have like custom designs and like people and stuff. I remember what got me into film. Like I've always been into film. Like I saw Alien when I was like 6 years old and was just like obsessed with it.
Uh-huh.
Um, I'd say like what really funnily got me into film is like iCarly. Just the idea of like these are kids, but they're able to create their own TV show just using accessible technology, and that made me realize like, oh
Mm-hmm.
shit, I don't need to like go to a movie studio. I can go on like Windows Movie Maker and make something. In
Mm-hmm.
seventh grade, I was like just scrolling around on YouTube, and I found this channel called Indie Mogul, and they had this series
Mm-hmm.
called Backyard Effects where they teach you how to make crazy props out of stuff from home. So like I think like the first one I saw, they made like the BFG 9000 from Doom, and it was like they had like a CD, they had like a stat. What do you call it? Like those CD shelves that are like real tall. Like
Yeah,
took one of
yeah,
those and then like glued a bunch of like water bottles and like thermoses to it, and like they took like some old like gun toy, like cut it and attached it to the bottom, like spray painted it. So I got like
yeah. Mm-hmm.
obsessed with that, and like I was making props all the time. Like I made this like Gatling gun arm that was like an electric screwdriver with like so like I took like shipping tubes and made the Gatling tubes, and then like it was like attached to like a skateboard wheel, which was spun by a electric screwdriver with like grip tape on the tip. So I was
Uh-huh.
always just like making stuff, and then through that I found out what
Mm-hmm.
After Effects was. So in seventh grade, I downloaded a free trial of After Effects and started like messing around with visual effects. Basically, like anytime there was a project in school where we were allowed to do whatever we wanted, I would always try to make like a film project of some sort and like teach myself the
Mm-hmm.
tools. Like the first like music video I made was in like seventh grade in my social studies class. We were learning about like the Mesopotamian period, and like
Mm-hmm.
I was assigned with like making a video about like Mesopotamian religions. So I like bought like a pope costume, like bought my first green screen, and like took like Black Eyed Peas, like Boom Boom Pow, and like
Mm-hmm.
recorded like my own version of it, but like talking about like Mesopotamian religion. So that was like my
Uh-huh.
first like music video project. Um, in high school, I kind of got into like recording my own music. So like I played in a bunch of bands. Like I spent like every day in like Logic Pro. Yeah, also in like middle school, I really got into like Newgrounds and Flash animation.
Mm-hmm.
So like I downloaded Flash. I'd make little cartoons of like teachers I didn't like or like my friends and stuff. Like I tried to make a game, but I could never like figure out like the coding part of it. Like I
Mm-hmm.
made like a platformer game in like seventh grade, but I couldn't figure out how to like make enemies or like a health bar. Um, and then when I graduated so like, oh yeah, in high school I also did some like 48-hour film projects that kind of like, got me into like working with my friends and like making stuff. And then when I graduated high school, I went to college for engineering because like I was just caught up in the idea like I can't make a living as an artist. Like I want to make money. I want to make six figures no matter what. So, I went to
Mm-hmm.
school for engineering and I ended up like flunking out of my first year because like instead of doing my homework, I was going to events and like trying to meet promoters and like being like, "Hey, can I record your event? I'll do it for free, and then the next one I'll charge you $300." So I
Mm-hmm.
started recording a bunch of events and like doing short films and stuff. Um, I like oh yeah, also like right after I graduated, I placed in this like film competition called the International Youth Silent Film Festival, and like basically everyone who placed got to go to Portland, Oregon, and like meet all these people and like tour these studios. And like through doing that, like
Mm-hmm.
seeing what I was doing on like a grand scale, like kind of made me realize like, damn, like this is just like engineering, like the technology that goes behind it. Like we toured this one dude's studio. His name's Michael Curry. He designed like the if you've ever been to Universal Studios, he designed like the big Transformers suits that the people walked
Oh.
in. He designed like
Uh-huh.
the mech suits that are in like Avatar World at Disney, and like seeing this dude who like grew up with like a creative background in like an Amish community who didn't have access to technology, and now seeing him in this
Mm-hmm.
giant studio like using all this cutting edge tech like carbon fiber materials and shit. I was just like, damn, like I like just walking through this stuff, like getting chills the whole time, realizing like, damn, I can do this at a bigger scale. And like I got to
Mm-hmm.
spend an afternoon with a director and producer for like Transformers and X-Men, and just like picking his brain about like storytelling and like like the monomyth, like the power of myth and like comparative mythology throughout film, like kind of made me realize like, damn, like I could do this as a career. Like this is like a big thing. Like I don't have to be a starving artist for my whole life. Like this could be me one day. So that kind of made me realize like maybe I do have a shot at this. And then I ended up flunking out of college with like a 1.3 GPA because I was not doing any of my homework, just working on film stuff. And then
Mm-hmm.
after I flunked out, like literally I signed a lease for like a year in Cincinnati, and right after I signed the lease I found out that I got kicked out of college. I was like, shit, I don't know what to do. So like I lied to my parents, told them I was still in school, and I was like, I still have to find a way to like financially support myself because now I'm not getting student loans anymore because like
Mm-hmm.
all of my expenses were paid from student loans. So like I went onto eBay, I bought like a $40 used projector, and I started going to like small clubs and like talking to the promoters like, hey, I see that you guys have like these live visuals. I'd love to come out one time and just like, just try my shot at it. And so like, while I was out of college, I was doing all these events where I would like basically I would take like the artist's logo or like a title that I would design and I'd project it onto like a big foam board, like trace it, and then cut it out with an
Mm-hmm.
X-Acto knife, like duct tape it to the wall in the venues and project onto it so it looks like this like big like neon sign with like animation and stuff. And so like I kept doing that for a while, and then eventually like me and my buddies we like formed this small collective and started shooting music videos. And then like that as well as the live visual stuff kind of took off. Like I started doing visuals on like actual LED walls. So like I no longer needed a projector, and the music video stuff started to kind of take off, and I've just been kind of like running with it ever since.
So, I mean, that's awesome. It's really cool to kind of see that whole journey. And I really liked how you mentioned cartoons because I mean, a lot of people might not really think about that, but how Dexter's Laboratory made you want to invent things, and like Ed, and Eddie was one of my favorite shows growing up. So yeah, seeing all the creative ways Eddie would, try to scam people and
Exactly.
all the stuff. Like it's cool that that was able to influence you in that way. Um, and then, yeah, I saw, I think you have a TikTok, and you kind of walk through that whole process of how you did the projector and
Yeah.
like cutting out the letters. And that was so cool to see that,
Thank
because
you.
like I never even would have thought of that. And then the final product just looks so cool. And that's awesome to see how it was, just kind of a, hey, let me shoot my shot. And then, like you said, going to events and talking to people, and how important that can be. Just being like, hey, let me do something for free, and then that can turn into a paid gig, and then they can refer you to other people, and how that can just snowball and snowball. So that's really cool that you mentioned that process.
Absolutely.
um, and I mean, you talked about film, and I know you do a lot of music videos, directing, visual effects, and stuff. Is film, whether it be short film or even longer, is that something you want to dive into more in the future?
Absolutely. Yeah, like my like end life goal, like if money wasn't an issue, like if I had $1 million in the bank right now, like I would go make a feature film. Like, like my first love was definitely like cartoons. So like, I've always wanted to have my own like animated show or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, film, like narrative film, that's definitely like my end goal. Like I'd love to direct like sci-fi blockbusters. Like I know that's like extremely ambitious, but like,
Mm-hmm.
like I feel like, we live in a society today where someone could go and produce that on their own without the help of a studio. But yeah, it's just like I like music videos because there's like a few week to 3 month turnaround for them. Whereas like a
Mm-hmm.
film, it takes years and years of development. You have to bring people on board. Like that's definitely the end goal. And also like, I definitely want to move into more narrative stuff because like to me, what I love about film is like the whole like seeing a character's journey. Like I'll be like really depressed and then I'll go watch a movie and like seeing like that main character like go through hardships then overcome it. Like that to me, like I don't know, like makes me excited about life again. And like
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like that, that's what I'd love to do. It's just, it's a long journey before I get there.
So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a complicated process, even with a short film, regardless of its in-person animation. But that's cool that, I mean, you want to do a sci-fi
Yeah,
blockbuster, and even though it is ambitious, I mean, that's still super cool, and something that a lot of people might not think about. The first thing, or one of the things that they want to do, because it's so
for
ambitious.
sure.
But I think that's really cool to kind of strive for. Um, and then, I mean, a lot of what you do now seems to be with like visual effects and stuff. So if you want to kind of talk about how you got interested in that. I mean, you talked about getting After Effects in like seventh grade and kind of working on it over time. But if you can kind of talk about what drew you to working on that, and talk about the plethora of platforms, because going through some of your TikToks, it seems like you use all kinds of different programs and software to kind of help you create your vision.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've always kind of been into like illusions. Like I never really got into magic, but like Arthur Clarke, he has this quote. It's like any sufficiently developed technology is indistinguishable from magic. And it's just like
Mm-hmm.
this idea of like the fact that like I went to school as an engineer starting out, and growing up I wanted to be an inventor, but also like at my core I'm an artist, and like visual effects like ties those two things together. And it's just like I love like the problem solving aspect of it, where it's like I can do this with just my iPhone. um yeah, I've always just kind of, like I think like building the props is kind of like what got me into it. Like I used to kind of play around with practical effects. Like I think like the first like video project I did was like I was in like fifth or sixth grade, and it was like soldier versus ninja or something. It was like me and my neighbor, and like I like grabbed like
Uh-huh.
flour and like shook it around and then like ran out and then like did a cut, so it was kind of like in Naruto when they like disappear into a puff of smoke, like
Uh-huh.
stuff like that. Yeah, I think like I remember I would watch like movies like Alien, and then I would or like Alien versus Predator, and then like in the DVD they'd have like the bonus content. I'd watch how they do it, and I'm like,
Mhm.
whoa, like this is actually like doable. But yeah, I think like I'm like really lucky because like in seventh grade there was this teacher at my school who she took like one of the she took like this utility closet that no one was using, and just like painted the wall green. So like our school had this green screen in it. So I was like, oh shit, like I'm gonna like mess around with this, see what I can do. And like I
Mm-hmm.
started experimenting with that and just realizing like all the endless possibilities. Like I did this one project where I did like human tech deck where like I would make these little like tech deck ramps out of like
Mm-hmm.
pencils and books and stuff. And then like I took like a tech deck and put it on like a little like metal wire and like held it in front of my computer screen and like twist it to do the tricks. Then I would like
Mm-hmm.
stand on the green screen, pretend to do the tricks, and then like put all that together and like make it look like I'm like a little mini person who accidentally shrunk myself
Uh-huh.
like doing tricks and stuff. But yeah, no, I just like the engineering side of it. Like I just love the idea of like having a problem and trying to find out the solution. Like a lot of times when I shoot a music video, like I don't think I don't really think about like I want to do this and here's how I can do it. It's kind of like well it's not like I like if I come up with an idea, it's like the end project in mind and I'll go and shoot it and then figure out how to do it like after the fact. So it's just like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, just like solving problems. That's kind of what got me into it. And then like on some like weird shit, it's like I feel like every artist has this like weird inner desire to kind of like become like a god of some sort. And it's like just the idea of like creating stuff that's like seemingly impossible. Like I don't know, it makes me feel like some sort of like I don't know, like God figure or some shit. Like I'm like creating these like mini
Uh-huh.
universes like on my computer.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean that's one of the first things that drew me to you when I found one of your TikToks a few months ago. It just popped up on my screen, and I'm not sure exactly which one it was. It might have been for the music video
Mm-hmm.
Donor, because I think you posted a few with those. But then I looked at your profile and like saw all your stuff, and a lot of it's kind of like behind the scenes or like a tutorial as kind of show how you made it. Like there's one where you bought a treadmill off
Yeah,
Craigslist, painted it
yeah,
green, and used that so you could have running effects. And then you just had like a green screen cloth in the background, and then everything else was like pretty much all done on the computer. But you made like a fully animated music video with the musician inside the world, and like you said, it's kind of like a mini universe, and
exactly.
to kind of show how you use the different programs and everything to use that was really cool. And I really like being able to see the behind the scenes,
Thank
because for a lot of people it seems pretty daunting to do all the different stuff, learn those programs. But I like how you said you just kind of more focus on your vision and what you want to do, uh, and then just figure it out later, because even if it doesn't turn out exactly how you thought, there's probably some way to do what you originally had in mind. So that's
thank you.
awesome. um, I guess with some of those programs, I mean, just going through some of your TikToks, you listed off like several different ones. But are there any, I guess, either tips or programs that you recommend that people maybe don't use very often that they should, or anything related to that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, as far as like program like After Effects is like if you want to get into visual effects, like After Effects is the main go. Like
Mm-hmm.
it does like it's something that everyone uses, but like if you want to get into visual effects, my recommendation is to look up how to make someone get hit by a moving car, because like that was like one of the first things I tried doing, and like through that like I learned all of the tools or like all of like the different approaches. So like if you want to make someone get hit by a car, it's like you film them like walking into the street, get a plate shot with nothing in it, and then film a car
Mm-hmm.
going by. And then like in the editing program, like cutting yourself out and like moving you with the car, that makes you realize like, oh shit, this is like a lot of these effects is like taking a plate, which is like a background with nothing in it, and then
Mm-hmm.
putting a person in front of it, and then just kind of like stitching it together. And it was like learning that you kind of realize like this is just like taking pieces of paper and like stacking them and like cutting them out. So
Mm-hmm.
like through doing that, like that'll teach you like that'll teach you like all of the main tips like masking, rotoscoping. If you wanted to get into 3D, like Blender is the go-to. Like I'll be
Mm-hmm.
honest, I use Cinema 4D, but like I wish I used Blender. Like I do want to switch into that eventually because
Mm-hmm.
like Cinema 4D is just so expensive. Blender has really good like hair and fluid dynamics that would crash your computer if you use Cinema 4D, and it's free. Like it's open
Mm-hmm.
source, so there's always people like adding to it. Like Blender is like the best tool in my opinion for 3D. If you want to get into any like live stuff, it's kind of pricey, but like Resolume is a really sick software. That's what I use for all of my shows that I run
Mm-hmm.
visuals for. And they also like it's basically what they use for like any big arena show, like a live show that you go to with
Mm-hmm.
like big jumbotrons and shit. Like they're all using Resolume, and it's really cool. Like if you're into like DJing at all or like Ableton Live, it's literally like if you took like DJ software and then like Premiere and like mash them together because it's like you have like clips, you can layer them, you can like adjust
Mm-hmm.
all the effects in real time and use MIDI to like map every effect to, like a different knob. There's like time mapping, so like let's say you have like a clip of something like banging its head and it's like 8 beats. You can like go into the software and be like, this has 8 beats in it, and then you have like a little metronome tap thing, so you can like tap it to the beat, and all of a sudden your visual is like in perfect sync with the music. So like that's like a super powerful software that anyone interested in live visuals should look into. But yeah, I think that's like the main software. If you want to get into making games, GB Studio is free, super easy to use. And what's really cool is like it's created for like Game Boy hardware, but like you can also export your games as like I think it's like a JavaScript file that you
Mm-hmm.
can like embed into a website. So like if like growing up, I was obsessed with like the Cartoon Network Games website. So like if you want to do something like that, like you can
Mm-hmm.
do that in this software. It's like super easy to learn. It's all 8-bit pixel based, and like the final output you could play on your phone or on a website. So if you're interested in game making, like I highly recommend checking out GB Studio.
So yeah, sweet. I'll talk about that here in a minute. But yeah, one of the questions I was going to ask was kind of why it seemed like you use Cinema 4D a lot compared to Blender, which is what I know a lot of my listeners and a lot of other artists that I know. So yeah, I was going to kind of ask about that, but it's even it seems like you, even though that's not what you mainly use, that's still kind of what you recommend. Because
Absolutely.
yeah, Blender's free, open source. So I mean, yeah, that's something I started getting into at the beginning of the year, and then kind of put it off to the side with school and just filming other content. But hopefully during this summer, I want to kind of get more back into that, and then as well as After Effects,
Absolutely.
because I know how to handle myself with Premiere and Photoshop decently, but the like one time I tried to use After Effects, it was a little bit daunting, but I I made like a little audio visualizer following a tutorial, and it worked, and I got it to be fine. But that's something I definitely want to dive into more is After Effects because, yeah, like you said, it's like the king. It's like the visual effects platform.
Absolutely.
Um, and then I kind of mentioned earlier, you made like a lot of your TikToks are kind of like behind the scenes or like tutorial s content. Is that something you want to do more in the future?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So like the way I look at it, I mean, I went to I went to a semester of community college for film, but this was like already I was already doing all this stuff, and like I don't know, I did like a semester, then like halfway through I was like I'm not learning anything, so I just dropped out. And so like everything I've done like visual effects and film related, like I that's all self-taught. And like the way I look at it is I learned everything I know from free resources that generous people share on the internet. So if I'm going to like build my entire career using tools that came from a place of generosity, like I have to reciprocate that. So,
Mm-hmm.
like for like example, like GB Studio, like I made a game and like sold it, but that software is like free. And it's like I have to, like, put back into that community. So it's like, I'm using a free resource, so I want to offer my own like free resources. And like,
Mm-hmm.
I think that like, not to get too deep on the whole education system, but like I feel like a lot of tools are like I don't want to say gate kept, but like there is this like general idea like oh you have to like pay this major institution to like learn this stuff, and like I want people to
Mm-hmm.
understand that like you know there's all these free resources available, and like I want to help people like get into that and like learn stuff, and also just for me personally like doing creative shit and making art, like that to me is like what gives my life meaning. And I want like other people to like be able to do that if they want to. Like I want to inspire other people to start doing that. Like I like watching like Indie Mogul, like their backyard effects stuff, like that got me into film, and now that's like my whole career path. And like I don't believe in gatekeeping. Like I know that like there's a lot of artists who are like, oh, I don't want to share the tools because then you like run off with my sauce. But it's like
Mm-hmm.
it's not the tool, it's the application. It's like if in one sentence I can tell you how to do everything that I do, then like I'm not really doing anything that innovative. So it's like I don't like believe in the idea of like gatekeeping, like secret sauce or whatnot. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
like like I've there's been numerous times where I've like developed a style that I haven't seen before, and then someone else does it and it gets more views, and like yeah, every now and then it's annoying, but like my mentality is like every single project I do, I try to approach with a different style, develop something new specifically for that project. So it's like if people are going to, copy my style, like by the time they've copied it, I've already moved on to the next thing. And
Mm-hmm.
like, I ideally I want to create like a platform that like basically tells you how I do everything. Like for example, like the donor video, I screen recorded like the entire process from start to finish. So I have like 100 hour. I have 100 hours of video recordings of the entire donor process from start to finish. Like literally,
Uh-huh.
at any time I'm working on that project, like on my computer, like I'm screen recording it, and like I don't want to release it all like right now, but like my plan is to continue recording the process for everything I do, and then once I get to a point where I'm comfortable enough in my growth and like my position with my career, I'm just gonna like create a website and be like, yo, check out this website. It has everything I've ever done and
Mm-hmm.
how to do it. Like here's your free college. Just take it and do whatever. And like by that point, I'll have moved on to whatever like the next step is in my career.
So yeah, I mean that's awesome. I mean I definitely agree with you that I guess knowledge in itself should be open source, and I mean there's so many free resources and programs and program alternatives that people can use, and so there might not be as many tutorials for this one certain software than there is for another, but it can probably do the same thing if you mess around with it for a long enough time. So that's
Exactly.
really cool that you emphasize that importantness of it being free and not having to go to college. Like I'm a college student right now for business. And so, I mean, yeah, I definitely get what you're saying. Luckily, I go to a more affordable school, but I mean, yeah, college is expensive. And, if you are 18 years old or 17 years old and you don't know exactly what you do and you're like, I'll do this. And then all of a sudden you're like 20 grand, 30 grand in debt. Like
Yeah,
you don't have to do that. And there's so many different ways, like you said, with a ton of different resources. I mean, YouTube is college in a sense. Like there's
literally.
so much. Like I could become a professional, 3D modeler just using YouTube tutorials if I spent enough time and talk to people on forums and Discord and stuff. So I think that's really important that you touched on uh, how many resources are available, and even though there may be some expensive software and stuff, there's probably a way you can do it to get around that, without
Yeah.
that certain software or course or something. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and like I believe there's a lot of value in college. Like it's funny because like what I do is so specialized that like if you were to go to like a major university or college, like they're not going to teach you how to do VFX. They're going to teach you like how to use Premiere, how to set up a camera, all that stuff. Like if I wanted to learn like professional VFX, I would have to go to basically like a trade school. And
Mm-hmm.
like I don't think like a lot of people like understand like a lot of like film stuff is very specialized. And I'm really happy I went to that 1 year of college, because through that like I met a lot of people who like I still work with to this day. And like there's like this huge value in being in a community where everyone around you is the same age, chasing the same goal. Like it builds a network for you that becomes
Mm-hmm.
lifelong friends. And like I'm lucky that like even though I like flunked out of college, like I still lived in a college town, so I could still kind of get that like college experience. And be
Mm-hmm.
completely honest, like sometimes when I was bored, I would just like sneak into a class and just like sit in the background, just to
Uh-huh.
learn something. Just like I don't know, like I miss college. Like I like being on the campus. Like I love like the energy, but like as far as for what I want to do, like it's not the right resource for me.
Hmm. So yeah, that sneaking into a class, I may be misremembering it, but I think there's a story where like Steve Jobs, like early on, like in either early Apple or like right before he started Apple, he would sneak into some like really nice college classes, and that's how he got interested in like typography,
Oh
and that's
wow.
why like he put like fonts and that were kind of so important to him early on. So I may be misremembering, but I'm pretty sure it's Steve Jobs and something like that. So that's kind of funny how you're just like, I'm bored. I'll just what's
For
one more
real.
student in a chair. Um,
Exactly.
but then, I mean, you've mentioned it a few times, but making a Game Boy game, that was something that when I saw your video and you kind of, again, walk through that whole process, that's something that, you would think you need a ton of experience, need to do all this kind of stuff. But, you just, that one program you mentioned, you just kind of started using that, messed around with it. And I mean, from what I saw, you made like a fully playable game based on that music video you directed, which is super cool. I mean, you even got the injector to put it on actual cartridges,
Yeah,
which I mean
that's the
that's
thing
just
you
going
have
the
to do.
extra mile, which is just so cool. So
Thank
if you
you.
kind of want to talk about, I guess, that process and what made you want to take on that challenge.
Yeah, so like, ever since I was a little kid, like I've always wanted to make games. Like when I was in like first grade, like that was my dream job. Like I wanted to be a game developer when I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I got my first Game Boy when I was like, I'm gonna guess like 5 years old or something. Like the first game I got was like Earthworm Jim, and like I just, like, I love like I just think that like games are so cool, and like it's funny because I feel like everyone has this like innate desire to like mythologize themselves. So like when I was growing up, like I always like wanted to be like in a game, or like be like have my own action figure or something. Like I wanted to like see myself in
Mm-hmm.
some form of like interactive media. And so like, eventually I was like, oh, I could put artists into these like games or like action figures, and like, mythologize them, make them like a physical like thing within some like interactive sense. But yeah, so like, being a little kid, I was kind of dumb. Like I used to like make little like paper Game Boy games and like try to stick with my game that won't play. I remember like I think in like I think I was in like first grade or something. Like I used to like draw out little like platformer levels on like graph paper, and
Mm-hmm.
then in like I think at some point in elementary school, I downloaded like Game Maker, and I tried to make like a little like mini game on my computer. Like I think it was some like Sonic the Hedgehog shit with like little Chow characters.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then like, oh yeah, I remember like I was obsessed with the Cartoon Network online games. Like I thought that was so cool. Like I always wanted to create some sort of
Mm-hmm.
like mini game, because like I could go watch a show and then go online and like play little shockwave games and stuff. But in like in middle school, I got obsessed with Flash and like tried to make Flash games that didn't work out. And then like I kind of like put it on the side. Like I always knew like at some point I want to make a game. Like I want to create some sort of like interactive media. And then like I forget what exactly inspired it, but like I think I just like I was just like I just googled like how to make a Game Boy game one day. Then I saw
Mm-hmm.
this research, this whole like all these resources, and I'm like, holy shit, this is actually like super easy to do. So like I downloaded the software instantly, like went on eBay, bought like a flash cart, bought like one of these things, and basically the first thing I made, it was like my buddy Suicide Rascal. He just dropped an EP, and I wanted to figure out if I could like take that EP and like recreate it in 8-bit. So I would like, listen through the songs and then like try to code them. Like literally, if you go on to GB Studio's website, they have this like documentation page, or if you spend just like a day just like reading through that whole thing, like it'll tell you how to do literally every single step of the process. So like I made like just this one little test game that was just like 5 songs, and you just press
Mm-hmm.
A to like cycle through the songs. And then I was like, oh wow, I'm onto something. Like I need to eventually make like a full game, because this is like really cool. So basically, for like the next like I guess like I don't know, like 5 or 6 music videos, after we would make the music video, I'd make like an 8-bit version of the song, and then just like a little graphic of like the artist, and I would just make these little like fake games where it's just like the title screen with the song playing, and I would like post that on Instagram to promote like each music video, because I thought like, oh, maybe people will see this, interact with it, and it'll like
Mm-hmm.
direct traffic to the music video. And then when we shot the music video for Boner, I was like, I just like Sebi's whole brand, his image, like his fan base. I was like, I think this is like the perfect demographic and artist and image to like make a game for. Because I was like waiting for that opportunity to make a full game. But like when we shot that
Mm-hmm.
music video, I was like, this has to be it because like there were like different environments and stuff. Like there were some scenes where there were like crystal lakes and shit, and I'm like, oh, this would be perfect for like a platform game. So like I made like the first like game. It was just so this is like the first one we made, and it's Boner, and it's like 8 levels long. Like I'm gonna be honest, it's not that good of a game because like I hadn't figured out how to make like enemies that work that well. So there's no enemies. It's just like a platformer with pitfalls, and when you fall, it restarts the
Mm-hmm.
level. But then when you beat the game, it like has a QR code that brings you like this secret like little VR experience, and it's also
Mm-hmm.
like the comments on it, like because the video is only accessible to those who beat the game. It's kind of like the comments are kind of like a little like mini leaderboard where the people who like bought the
Uh-huh.
game can go in there. So we made 25 copies, sold out in like 40 minutes, and then there wasn't really much buzz. Like it was just kind of like we sold it and like that was that. And then like I think
Mm-hmm.
like a few weeks later we were like, why don't we make a TikTok about this, because this is kind of like something that's like new that no one's really done before. So went and made like a TikTok about it, and it just exploded. And like all these people started hitting us up. Like I There were all these like potential games that I was gonna do, but none of them like kind of like worked out. Like Mike Shinoda from Linkin Park reached out to us, which is crazy because like
Whoa.
Hybrid Theory was like the first album I ever bought, and also like growing up, I was like obsessed with Transformers. Transformers is another thing that like got me into VFX too. But
Mm-hmm.
it is funny because in the Boner music video, there's a scene where Sebi is like half centaur, like a mechanical centaur, and then like transforms into a spaceship. So it's like there's an
Mm-hmm.
actual like transformer in it. It was just like this like full circle thing, and then like that like really popped off and kind of like you know um, generated a good amount of buzz. And then like a year later, we decided to make a sequel to Boner called Donor because he just released a VV Red. So I did like the Donor music video, and I was like, yeah, this has to be a game because like the whole music video is in like this lava hellscape, and like
Mm-hmm.
as a kid, I was always obsessed with like the lava levels in the video game. So I'm like, I'm gonna make a game that's like all lava levels. And then
Mm-hmm.
at one point in the game, I was like, you know what, I have to like one up it from like the last game. So I designed like a little boss fight, and I realized like, oh shit,
Mm-hmm.
like it's not that difficult to make like actual bosses. So like through like making this new game, I learned so much about the process that like every single game I make from here on out is going to be like a whole nother league better than the last one. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so here's the Donor game I made. It's cool, a cool little detail. There's like spot hollow just on the text, and just as like a joke, I made like a 3D printed like giant version of it because like I think I'm gonna
Uh-huh.
do this for every game I make, and then like one day I'm just gonna have like a wall of just like all the games I've made.
Uh-huh.
But
That'd be so sick.
yeah, I'm working on a couple games right now, but I don't want to give like too much info about them because they're like super
Mm-hmm.
exciting. But like one really cool thing I learned is like in making these games, you can attach scripts to music events. So like you have like the music. So like when you make music on the Game Boy, you have to type in like each note of individually. So it's like this chart. You have to be like this note, this instrument, this effect. So it's like this like hex code you have to put for every single note. But like in the
Mm-hmm.
newest version of GB Studio, they added this thing where you can attach a script to like certain notes. So like once you hit like a certain note, it'll run like a an event. So this game that I'm like one of the games or both of the games I'm working on right now, there's boss fights, but the boss's attack patterns are like in sync with the music. So like right like when the song drops, the boss like changes to a different phase and the attacks get harder. So
Uh-huh.
it's like like doing games that are like in tandem with music projects. It's like you have to listen to the music to understand like when the boss is going to attack next. And so yeah, I want to do some more stuff like that. Yeah, yeah, I can't think of anything else, but yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, no, that's. Oh yeah,
Oh yeah. I was
you
gonna say
can
like,
keep
yeah.
going.
So this is like the GBX cart by Inside Gadget. So it's like a little USB port, and you literally just like put a flash cart into it, and then like plug it into your computer, and then you can just like write ROMs files to it. So that's like how I put the
Hmm.
games on like the physical cartridges.
So I mean, yeah, that's sick. I mean, that was. I also wanted to be a game designer when I was young. I think I tried to download Game Maker, but like barely messed with it because it was a little confusing
Very
when I was like
confusing.
11. I don't know. I tried different other little things, Unity, barely, but I mean that was something I always wanted to get into, and kind of like how you said you've always wanted to be like in a video game or an action figure, like some sort of interactive medium. I mean, yeah, that's definitely on my bucket list, and something whether it's a AAA game or just a cool little indie
Of
game
course.
or something that would be awesome. And then even when you mentioned how you can use that the game you make in with GB Studio and make it into like a JavaScript game
Yeah.
and just put it on a website. I'm working on my Shopify site
Oh
right
hell
now, and
yeah.
I'm like, oh, could I like make just even if it's just like a little thing? I was like, oh, that would be so cool, and to be able to show my gaming interest on the website and just do something like that. So now I'm thinking like, oh, maybe I'll try to do that, and it'll probably be a little bit further down the line because I'm still working on like how to make a T-shirt and like get all that set up. But I mean, yeah, just you mentioning that made me want to do that. And it seems like the program
Oh
and the
yeah.
resources out
Yeah.
there could definitely make that possible.
Absolutely. Highly recommend GB Studio. Like it's funny that you mentioned like Shopify because like I had this idea. I'm gonna go ahead and say it, but like I've always like loved the idea of like you go to like Chuck E. Cheese or like Dave and Buster's and like you use your tickets to like redeem prizes, but there's never been
Mm-hmm.
a video game that gives you like an actual prize. So I had this idea where I want to like hard code like a unique code in every single game for like a future game where like after you beat the
Mm-hmm.
game it has like a little QR to bring you to like some secret Shopify website. Then it has codes that you can use to like get actual prizes. So then you could have like a little like trophy or medallion for the first person to beat the game, and you could have like gold,
Mm-hmm.
silver, bronze, and like little collectible shit that you only get if you buy the game and beat it, or like if you beat the game on hard difficulty with no like not losing a single life, then you get like some sort of little trophy or something.
So I mean, yeah, that'd be super cool idea. Make it, not just a fun little, side thing, but make it interact with whatever you're doing. And yeah, have people, engage them with, having a specific reason for them to reach the game and, try to get a high score or beat the game. I think that's a really awesome idea.
Absolutely.
And then another thing I wanted to talk about is you've done a lot of the VFX and music video direction for the channel Hivemind. If you kind of wanted to talk about how your relationship with them got started and kind of how that's been.
Yeah. So way back in I think it was like 2017. Uh, Me, my buddy Grant, and like a handful of local artists, we formed this collective. It was called at the time it was called Wake and Shake because our buddy Grandes would like he would so we lived in Cincinnati and there were all these like UDFs, which is like United Dairy Farmers, like all over
Mm-hmm.
Cincy. So like we'd like always meet up at like UDF and just get milkshakes. So we like had this brand, we called it Wake and Shake. And then so it started out as like a little like music video collective where we would just like do music videos for all the artists. We threw this one show, and like Riley and Graydon were at the show and we met them, and then afterwards they interviewed us, and then we just kind of like kept like a relationship after that. And at some point we were like, okay, Wake and Shake, that's kind of like corny, like we need to come up with something more
Mm-hmm.
serious. So we decided to rebrand to Apollo 18. So we were talking to Riley about like helping us rebrand and like design like new assets for it. So like he like created like little logos for us and assets. So we were kind of like playing around with the idea, and then the collective kind of like, I don't want to say it fell apart, but like the artists just kept kind of doing their own thing. I mean, like, well, we have this
Mm-hmm.
platform, we have like 5 music videos on it, and then we were talking to Riley, and he was like, why don't we just he did Hivemind as like his thesis project for school, and he was like, "Why don't we just like?" Because they were doing interviews at the time, and he was like, "Why don't we just like combine the two brands together, like migrate to the music video channel and do music video content and like podcasts and interviews and stuff?" So we did
Mm-hmm.
that. Worked on a bunch of projects for a while, and I think we were like pumping out content for like 3 or 4 years, and then it just like it got to a point eventually where I was just like not feeling creatively fulfilled, and among some like other disagreements that like I realized like in order for me to like pursue my own goals, like I needed to like part ways and focus on my own craft. So we made some like really killer content, but like at a certain point I was like I needed to just like focus on my own stuff, and that like was best for
Mm-hmm.
both parties. But yeah, I'm still kind of like doing the same thing, just not as frequently, because I don't really have like a team anymore. It's just me like, doing everything on my own. But I'm trying to get back into gear. Like I want to start shooting music videos again. I just need to, save up and get some equipment. But, that's the next step, just getting back into shooting music videos.
So I mean, yeah, going through and looking at some of the, I guess, credits and videos you filmed. You've worked with, I mean, obviously Sebi, who you mentioned, Big Baby Gucci, Josiah, Midwest, and tons of other like rising and bigger artists. So I'm curious, is there anybody that like you really want to work with in the future, like someone whether it's a video or just any sort of collaborations, someone that you really want to work with?
Yeah, for sure. Like, well, to be completely honest, like at heart, I'm a huge metalhead. Like I grew up listening to metal, and my style lends itself very well to hip hop and like hyper pop and stuff. And like I've never really tried to create visual content for like metal artists, and that's like my biggest influence. And like I feel like that's more core to my identity. So like moving forward, I'd like to work with more metal artists, experiment with more like aggressive, edgier like type of art. And to be honest, I'd love to work with Jack Harlow at some point, just on some Louisville shit, because it's funny. So like back in when I first started like doing film, like commercially, it was like 2015. I just graduated high school, and me and like a buddy from class, Sam, we used to like film these like raves for there used to be like these little mini raves that would happen around the city,
Mm-hmm.
and we filmed one, and like one of the raves had like Jack Harlow performing, and it was like one of his first shows. So I have this like recap video somewhere on the internet where like I filmed Jack Harlow and stuff. So like I would love to like one day work with him. Let me think. There's this band called Omerta, which is really sick. It's like the only way I can describe it is like, how do I even describe this? It's like new metal mixed with like J rock mixed with like breakbeat. Like it's just like this crazy clash of like Eastern, Western pop
Mm-hmm.
culture styles, and their music is really different. Like I hear that, I'm like, oh, this is like the future of like aggressive music. So I'd love to work with them again, or at some point. I'm trying to think of other artists. Um, I love to work with Dirty Butt at some point, because he has this very like punk aggressive style, and I feel like that would like there's this like new visual kind of style that I'm working on right now that I really want to experiment with, and I feel like it lends itself really well to his music. I'm trying to think who else. Um, I'd also love to work more with like some fashion brands and streetwear. Like
Mm-hmm.
I have some ideas that I think would like lend itself really well to that. As far as other artists, yeah, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I mean, I'm sure. Yeah, to be honest, like I don't really like necessarily approach artists. I just kind of
Mm-hmm.
like I just keep making my own shit, and then like artists that I already fuck with just like tend to reach out to me, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, like I manifested this. So it's just kind of like making stuff in like I feel like if I just keep doing my own thing, like the artists I fuck with will reach out to me, and then it'll just like happen naturally.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, that's awesome. And then I mean, you kind of mentioned there near the end some of the like working with fashion brands and kind of physical products. One of the things that you just dropped, your little, I think it's knack knack toys
Yeah,
or like little stunt
yeah.
bin, which I remember seeing that pop up on my screen like, I don't know, a week or two ago. And I was like, wait a second. I had like those, as a kid, like I probably have them in a box somewhere at my house. And so that was so cool because I mean, a lot of people make, shirts or really cool figures and awesome stuff. But like, I didn't even know that was something someone could just make. So if you kind of want to talk about what inspired you to make those, and kind of how that creation process went.
Yeah, for sure. So knack knacks were like this old like McDonald's toy from like
Mm-hmm.
2002, and they're like these little like block characters, but like their center of balance is like perfect, so you can like stack them in any way, like hook their hands together and shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know, they're like I feel like at the time they had like the potential to be like one of the biggest fads, and then they just kind of like
Mm-hmm.
disappeared. So it's like it's one of those like deep memories that people like won't remember them, but like once they see it, like, oh shit, like I kind of remember this. But I just like this is weird, but like I love like small cubes and stuff. Like I was always obsessed with like Rubik's cubes and like anything shaped like a cube that was small. Like I remember like when I was like real little, like 3, there was this restaurant I used to go to, and they had these little like cube salt shakers. And I would go to like every table, take all the salt shakers, and just like line them all
Uh-huh.
up. I don't know why, but no, I guess like after doing the Game Boy thing, I was just kind of thinking like, what's like some other nostalgia stuff that I could do that I could like turn into a collectible, and like because like I want to make toys, but the cost to manufacture that is so expensive,
Mm-hmm.
and like I'd have to learn CAD design. It's just like this whole thing, and then like doing the Game Boy games, I was like, this is literally just like a pre-existing thing with a sticker on it, and so like I did some research, and like apparently like the trademark and all that stuff for Knack Knack expired in like
Uh-huh.
2013. So I was like, hell yeah, I could do this and like not get sued.
Uh-huh.
I can't. I don't know if there was like a single like I don't think there was like a single thing that like inspired it. I think I was just kind of like thinking about like oh, it was just weird. I was just like thinking about cubes, and I was like, what were like cube type toys that I like?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about Knack Knacks, and I was like, oh shit, I might be onto something. So so like once I came up with the idea, I just started like stockpiling knack knacks. Like
Mm-hmm.
anytime I'd have any money, like I would just go into eBay and I'd see like a deal for some like old knack knack toys, and like I would just buy people's like entire collections, and I just started like hoarding them like a
Mm-hmm.
madman. Like, I think I have like 400 at this point, and then I thought like basically after the Game Boy game, I was thinking, what are other ways I can create like collectibles that tie into music videos? And I thought like, oh, Knack Knack would be sick because like I always want like at some point I want to do like a skateboard music video,
Mm-hmm.
like the character like I don't know, when I look at the Knack Knacks, like I think of like a dude like posing on like a skateboard or a
Mm-hmm.
surfboard. So like at one point in the video, I want to have like the artist turn into a Knack Knack on like a skateboard and start doing tricks,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can buy like that physical Knack Knack that's in the actual video.
Mm-hmm.
And then so when I was working on like the donor game, basically I source all of the I source all of the cartridges internationally, and like when I bought them, they're like, this is expected to arrive in 3 weeks. So so when I sold the games, I said allow 5 weeks for shipping, and then I get this notification like 3 weeks later, like, oh, they're coming close, they're in the States, they'll be there soon, and they just never showed up. And then I was like, oh fuck, like what do I do?
Mm-hmm.
Like I was like, do I order more and like waste the money? Like what if I spend all this money ordering more and they show up?
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm just like hurting my wallet. So like I didn't know what to do, and then like people started messaging me like, hey, it's been 5 weeks, where's the game? And I started like kind of like freaking out, like shit, like I feel bad for like letting all these people down. So I ended up like reordering the cartridges. The first one got lost in the mail. I ended up getting a refund and all that, but anyways, I was like, I have to like make it out to like everyone who bought these, because like I feel so bad that these people waited so long.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was like, wait a second, like I plan on doing these knack knack drops eventually. Like, why don't I just make like custom knack knacks of the 3 outfits that Sebi wears in the music video,
Mm-hmm.
and just include one with every single game, because that could kind of like that would not only like promote like what I'm about to do, but also just kind of be like a thank you for your patience type of gift.
Mm-hmm.
So like before I shipped out the games, like I made these little like knack knacks of like Sebi. So like this is like this is the outfit he wears at the start of the music video. It's also what he wears in the Boner music video.
Mm-hmm.
And then here's like the jacked Sebi. Like there's a scene in the music video where he like flexes and his shirt rips
Uh-huh.
off. So there's that one. And then there's like a red one of him in his like red outfit. I can't find it at the moment. But it's like I made those and shipped them out. And yeah, and then after that I was like, I want to start making these on my own, but I just like wanted to do it. Like I was kind of like I had this weird period where it's like I want to start like creating stuff and like releasing products, but I was like waiting for like the right brand name for the right collab, all this shit, and I was like, you know what, fuck it, why don't I just like do one on my own that is like tied to my identity and has to do with what I do.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to make VFX snacks based off of like VFX characters, and like everyone, there's been toys that have to do with like music and graphic design, but there's never really been any toys for like visual effects artists, and I feel like that's like this whole chunk of like the creative scene that's
Mm-hmm.
like kind of untapped. So I created this is like my first drop, just like my first like original design drop, and it's in a cassette case, and it has like a lenticular hologram in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I've always like been interested in like holograms and like lenticular prints, and I decided like, oh, this is the perfect opportunity because like like it starts out like you have like the person in the green screen suit
Uh-huh.
in front of the green screen, like you film them, and then you load that into Blender, and that's like the rig that you like attach the skin to.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you do that, usually your computer crashes, and I have like the blue screen of death character. So so they're all like in this like cassette case, and you take them out. Actually like named them too. So this is Max Mocap. He's
Nice.
just Mocap Man. And then we have Riggs Kinetic because he's a kinematic rig. It's really cool. He has like spot mirror effects on his skeleton,
Mm-hmm.
and everything else is like just glossy. And then here's Mr. Blue Screen, and it's funny because like if you like, it's hard to kind of see, but like his torso text is like the Windows 1998 blue screen of death text. So it's like the problem has been detected, Windows has been shut down, yada yada. And then on like his arms and his legs, there's just like binary code that translate to the word error. And yeah, and right now I'm yeah, so I only made 25. I want it to be kind of like a limited drop, just to kind of like show like here's like what I'm working on,
Mm-hmm.
here's like what I plan to do, and right now I'm working on like a special gift that is included with every order, and it's like really exciting. Like I think the special gift is like cooler than the product itself, so I'm excited to ship those out. I just
Uh-huh.
don't want to spoil it though, because I mean it'll probably be like another week or two before they ship,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, yeah, and it's cool because they're trading cards. Like people do trading cards, but I want there to be like a trading card that you can like physically like hold and play with. And
Mm-hmm.
it's also cool. They have like little hooks on their hands, so like they connect together, and like you can build like all kinds of like crazy like stacks of them and
Mm-hmm.
shit. And also it's just like like it all ties together because it's like a stress toy. It's like fidget spinners and fidget cubes are like this huge thing, but like there's no branding behind it. It's just a fucking doohickey.
Yeah.
And this is like it's like a stress relieving toy because like the clicking and shit, but also it's like this could be different characters. Like what if every single music video I do, there's like you can get like a collectible figure of the artist. So it's like if you're
Mm-hmm.
a fan of my work, you can have this whole thing on your desk of like this big like stack of like all your favorite artists.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, so yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to these. I want to do these until I have enough like money and buzz to like create my own figures, because I don't want everything I do to be some sort of like nostalgia, like a nostalgia hack or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like I want to create stuff from scratch. This is just kind of like hey, look, I want to make toys. This is what I've made.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, when I first saw those, like you said, it was like a deep memory. Like I haven't even thought about those toys in like 10 plus years. But I was like, oh, wait, I know those. So, yeah, you saying they're from McDonald's, that's probably where I got like all mine from.
Yeah.
And that's cool because I was very curious on how you did that. And, it was really interesting to hear that story of you actually looked up and like found out the copyright had expired, and then just went on eBay and bought really cheap collections whenever you could, and have like 400,
Literally.
and then just kind of did it by yourself, more not like a manufacturer, but more just kind of solo, just doing it like that. So that's
Absolutely.
really cool to hear that story. I'm trying to think. I mean, I think in 5-10 years from now, with the Game Boy games and all the stackable figures, you're gonna have like the coolest office collector's room with
Literally.
all that stuff. So that's awesome. And I mean, you kind of mentioned wanting to get into figures and stuff in the future, but is there anything related to that, or even more just like clothing or something, more physical products that you are interested in making that you can talk about?
Oh, yeah, I have like pages and pages. It's just like a matter of like doing it. So like at some point, like I do want to get into jewelry, and it's funny. Like it's funny how I got into this. It's like so I was VJing this event like I say like a couple years ago, and I have this like external hard drive that has like all of my content on it. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just like a bunch of loops that I've made. So it's like, oh, this song sounds like heavy as fuck. I'm gonna put on this like metal skull that like I rendered that's like headbanging or
Mm-hmm.
something. And I was doing this show, and like my hard drive just started kind of like corrupting, or like it wasn't loading. Like my hard drive just like crashed on me, and I was like, fuck, like there's like hundreds of people in this
Uh-huh.
audience, and now I only have like 15 clips to work with as opposed to 100. So I was like, shit, this can never, ever, ever happen again. So I was like, how can I make sure that like this never, ever happens again? Like, I need to like get a flash drive and like make it like an extension of my body so I never lose like any of my clips. So then, like, literally, like a month after the show, I decided to like get my ear pierced. And then I went and bought like a little tiny little flash drive
Mm-hmm.
and like a little hook, and I made this little flash drive
Uh-huh.
earring that has like all of my content on it. So like if I'm ever at an event and like I can't find my content, that's just got like my whole library on it. And I started thinking like, oh shit, like this is kind of cool. I could make like a line of functional jewelry, and I have like a bunch of ideas. I don't want to like share all of them,
Yeah.
but like I this is just like a little like random idea I had the other day. So like I found this old it's like a little like aux converter.
Mm-hmm.
So like I want to make like an earring that's just like this bottom part that this can like clip into. So it's like a detachable earring that serves like a function,
Mm-hmm.
but also like then like if you take this off, you still have just the aux jack as an earring. So then like you could put like your dongle on it or something, and I started getting really into the idea of like functional jewelry. Um, and also like accessories that allow you to like interact with the music videos. Like I have like some crazy ideas for like ways you can like get like a product that allows you to like interact with the video on your screen, but it's I don't want to like share it yet because I want it to be a
Yeah.
surprise. But so I started playing with that. Like I think like when I started like I don't know, I had this little like earring phase. I made this I like 3D printed like the first Bionicle mask I ever got. So like I got the little like blue McDonald's Bionicle
Mm-hmm.
guy, and then like I found like this dude online who like 3D modeled like every single Bionicle piece, so you can like build like digital
Uh-huh.
versions, and like extracted this one mask, converted it, and then like shrunk it and like print it in like sterling silver. So I made that little guy. Back to the whole like content or like physical content that plays into the music video itself. During COVID, I got really obsessed with like animation cell collecting. Like like behind me, I have like two sketches from Samurai Jack. So like this one's like from the episode where like he loses his sandals, and then like this shoemaker starts designing all these different shoes for him that give him different
Mm-hmm.
abilities, and these are like the sharp high heels. Then this is like the Scotsman from Samurai Jack. This is like from the episode where Samurai Jack gets brainwashed by sirens, and the Scotsman has to save him.
Mm-hmm.
Like I kind of got like obsessed with that idea of like wow, like before like the early 2000s when everything was digital, like everything was like physically handmade, and I started like rewatching shows and realizing like damn, like when I watched like an old version, like an old episode of The Simpsons, like Ed, Ed and Eddie, like I can literally see the shadow from the cell on the background, and like all of a sudden now like when I watch shows, like I can literally see like the individual like brush marks and shit.
Mm-hmm.
Now damn, that's so cool. Like I remember watching this episode and I was like 4 or 5 years old, and like it played a lot into like who I am today because it's, you know, like Samurai Jack was like one of my biggest influences, and like so now this to me is like a holy artifact,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, damn, like to watch like a piece of media that you connect with and then own a piece of it, that's like a really cool thing. But like nowadays it's impractical to like, you know, physically pay to sell. So I started thinking about like how can I do something like this, but like in my own way. And you know, I love like Lone Wolf and this one artist Winston Hacking who does like collage animations. So I started kind of like playing with that idea, and then I came up with this like nuts idea. I call them roto cards at the moment. I don't know when I'm gonna release these. I don't know if I'm gonna like do this in a bunch of music videos for like a year and then release booster packs, or if I'll release them per video. But
Mm-hmm.
like, I started playing with the idea of like paper cutout
Oh,
frames
whoa.
and then putting them in card protectors. So like, here's like three of my logo, and like, you know, if you like play these three frames, it just kind of like jiggles. So like I want to like take like certain little sequences and frames in music videos and like make them animated on paper, and then like sell like the actual little like cards of them so you can own like the physical piece from the video. Like here's like a little, have this like animation of a you call it like a piranha plant or something. So like here's just like a
Oh,
little
whoa.
so here's like, you know, some like plants that I designed,
Uh-huh.
and then there's like another one I have right here, and it's, and I, you know, I kind of like played like I did some little tests with it, and I found that like when you put them in these cards and like you scan them, if you have them layered, because of the protective case, it adds this like depth of field effect to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then also like I've always loved the idea of like, you know, in Photoshop you have different layers, in After Effects you have different layers, so it's like art pieces that have different layers that you can put in like a shadow box or even like combine to make your own little scenes. So like, you know, you could take like this guy right here, and then you put like a fire frame in front of it and then a fire frame behind it, and now you have this whole little like 3D collection thing. And like in the bottom there's like a little code, so like I like cut them so like each one is numbered so you can like see like the code of that sequence. Then also like so when I'm scanning them I know which one's which. So, you know, I want to do these little like cards for music videos at some point, and then like I want to put little like QR codes on them so you can like scan it and it'll like pull up the video, tell you exactly what frame it is, how many views it has, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And just like, you know, I just want to get them in the hands of as many people as possible. But you know, that's like a future thing I want to mess with. Trying to think if there's anything else. Yeah, like, you know, I have like a bunch of products like planned out. It's just I don't want to talk about them until they're complete.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the idea of like something that's in the music video you can like physically own, kind of crossing that gap. But yeah, those are all my plans at the moment. I'd love to like I don't really have an interest in getting into clothing. So I've never really been into designing clothes. You know, I want to kind of like stand out and do like my own thing where everything's like a physical product or an accessory. And then but I would love to at some point like collab with like streetwear brands where like I design I design like a toy of their character, and then they designed a shirt or something of my brand,
Mm-hmm.
and so that way it's kind of like this like collab drop. So I'd, you know, I'd love to collab and do clothes, but you know, I do want to kind of like stick with physical products for the moment.
So yeah, I mean that. I mean, I'll kind of talk about everything here, but yeah, I was curious as if in the background if those were sales. So that's really cool to kind of hear the story and of Samurai Jack, which I mean I haven't watched in a long time. I do want to rewatch it, but I mean yeah, I grew up with it, and collecting animation cells is something that I want to get into and collect here sometime in the future. So that's really cool to kind of hear you not only talk about your love for the cartoon, but your love for the whole process. And I really like
Absolutely.
how you've been able to find ways to take something, digital or something on a screen and translate it into a physical product. Like the, trading cards, but it's animation cells. That's such a cool idea, something you
Thank
want to
you.
think about. But I mean, just seeing that it worked so well and, being able to have trading cards that can interact with each other and, you have a little
Yeah.
stand or something, you can change it out. So I'm definitely super excited to see, how that'll evolve and, when those come out.
Oh yeah. One quick thing. I do want to play a lot more with the idea of like lenticular prints.
Mm-hmm.
Like one thing that like about film is like there's no way to like film and animation have like time and stuff,
Hmm.
so it's like it has to exist on a physical screen. But I feel like lenticular prints I feel like could be like I just see it being like this huge wave soon, because 3D artists could have like a 3D version of their character, or like trading cards with these on them. Like
Hmm.
I have this idea for a trading card that's on like a medium that's like I don't think has ever been done before, and like I don't want to like share it
Yeah.
yet, but it's gonna be crazy once I do like the first run.
And then also, I mean, I obviously noticed the earring there the whole time, but I just thought it was like, cool, looks like a USB. But to hear
Yeah,
that, the whole story behind it, and you were like, I need to find a way where this never happens again. And to, have
yeah,
something like you said that's practical that you have with you all the time. So that's really cool to hear the story behind that and how literally like all your content's there. So you never even have to worry about that. You don't have to have everything taking up space on your phone and then back it up and then your phone
exactly.
dies, you just always have that. So I think that's really cool, and I can't wait to see. I mean, you kind of talked about some of the other stuff that you have planned, but everything with that, useful jewelry, practical jewelry that you can, use for a variety of different uses. That's awesome. I
Thank you.
guess I was going to ask how you overcome creative slumps, but it seems like you have a million different ideas and always something new to work on. Um,
That's literally one of the creative slumps, though, to be honest,
mhm,
because it's like there's the things that I need to be doing, and like a lot of artists will tell you like, oh, I want to like if I'm like feeling uninspired, I'll go work on my own art
mhm,
and then feel inspired and come back. My issue is I'll like hit a creative slump, go work on my own stuff, and then all of a sudden that's my new obsession, and then I start like another thing, and that's my new obsession, and it's like I'll be honest, I don't know how I like get over creative slumps. It's just like as an artist, I'm always just like chasing the dopamine. Like whatever I can focus on, I focus on. But my priorities are always out of whack. It's like I don't really have any skills for that. It's just kind of like deal with it when it happens. And
mhm,
I don't know. I need to figure out some techniques, but like I have some really bad habits when it comes to like creative slumps.
mhm. I say, yeah. I mean, I definitely have creative slumps, but kind of like you, it's more like a priorities thing. Sometimes I'll be like, oh, I really need to work on like the website and like pushing these, like figuring out the products and exactly what I want to do. But then I'm like, oh, but this video that I started on is really cool, and that's kind of more exciting me right now. So then I'll go and spend the whole evening working on that video, and it's like, oh, probably should have worked on that, but in the end, it's not life or death, so it'll be okay. But
Exactly.
but I guess lastly, is there anything that you want to add? Maybe talk about? I think you mentioned before we started that you have some stuff coming up that you wanted to kind of talk about or announce. If you want to kind of mention that now.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so like the announcement is just basically like the secret gift that's going to come with these VFX Next
Mm-hmm.
orders. But I think I'll just let I'll let the orders go out, and then people will share it, and then I'll announce it. But I want to keep it a secret for now. I do want to plug some resources that are extremely helpful. So if you're a filmmaker or an aspiring filmmaker, and you're like if you're I think it's 20 years of age or younger, I highly recommend looking up the International Youth Silent Film Festival. It's makes I think it's makesilentfilm.com. It's this like international contest that I would recommend any creative who's like under the age of 20 to enter.
Mm-hmm.
And basically like they give you like a 3-minute soundtrack for like I think like 6 different genres, and you choose one. You make a short film to that soundtrack, and then you submit it. And if your film gets selected for screening, they'll play it in like an old theater with like an actual pipe organ,
Mm-hmm.
and there'll be like a this dude Nathan Avakian like sitting there like playing a fucking full ass he'll play like the song on an actual organ while your
Mm-hmm.
video's playing on the screen. So that's like a really cool experience. And if you place in it, you get to make like a lot of connections and go to a lot of you get to like tour some studios and do a lot of really cool things. So, like I'd recommend anyone to look into that. Another thing is if you're interested in physical products or jewelry manufacturing, 3D printing, any sort of like physical creative process, I would look up makerspace or hackerspace because there's one usually in every major city. So like most major cities have this like this community space called a makerspace where
Mm-hmm.
you go there and they have like 3D printers, sewing machines, welding, like wood shops, like jewelry stations, like any sort of tool you could possibly imagine they have there. And when you go there and like if you decide to become a member, it's usually like a $50 a month fee. Like it's different for each state, but like if if you go there, agree with them, you get access to this studio 24/7 and all this equipment, and they have people there who like train you how to use it. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like it's literally almost like trade school for a sense. Like if you wanted to learn how to weld, you could go there and take welding lessons, and then
Mm-hmm.
people will be there to help you. And also, it's just like a really cool community because you're surrounded by like like people into cosplay, mechanical engineers, computer professors, like all kind. Like you're just surrounded by all these like brilliant minds who are all like trying to create shit, and you can just like bounce ideas off each other, like ask for help or anything. So like I highly recommend anyone to like who's into that stuff to look it up because it is like a life changing resource.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, my college, I don't know how common it is, but my college has a maker space in the library. And yeah, it has like 3D printers, sewing machines, soldering irons, just all kinds of different creative tools. And it's free for students. And there's always different people there. And like you said, other creatives that you can connect with. So if anybody listening is at a college, or even just, in their local community, there's could be something, some sort of version of that to look for. And I know, like for me, I mentioned earlier how I was a business major, but last year I was talking to one of my professors, like right before I started the podcast, and we were just having a little meeting about it, and she emailed someone over in the like tech department, like the film uh, degree department, whatever. And she was able to real quick get us a meeting, and I got to go over there, and he showed me all the podcast equipment. And even though I didn't work for them or like make content for them, he's like, hey, students can come here regardless and check out a camera, check out mics and like professional equipment. And so I ended up not doing that just because I have like a nice computer and I can just film with my phone and a mic and stuff. But it's still really cool to see that that resource is available. And so I mean, I know specifically for colleges, there's probably some sort of resource like that on your campus. So I would just, send an email to someone that's in that department, and if they can't help you, they can probably send you to someone who can. So I think that is important to kind of know that there are a lot of resources out there, not just online, but probably in your local community as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And also, if you do want to learn visual effects, videocopilot.net is a really good resource. I learned a lot of VFX stuff from that. Um, of course, Corridor Digital is great.
Mm-hmm.
That's, but they're like, they're kind of like the main like VFX channel on YouTube right now. But I mean, the way they break down stuff, that's really cool. Trying to think of any other resources. Yeah, it's everything I can think of. I mean, YouTube is a gold mine.
Mm-hmm. So definitely will. I appreciate you coming on the show. We talked for over an hour here, so there's definitely a lot to learn, and I appreciate you taking the time. So thank you for coming on. If you guys enjoyed the episode, make sure to subscribe, follow Alex, comment what you want to see in the future. But thank you guys for listening.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.